volume or intensity. It's the debate that never ends. Is it volume? Is it intensity? Is it volume? Is it intensity? Oh, this study over here says volume. This study over here says intensity. Mike Menzer says intensity, and some other dweeb says it's volume. Folks, what the hell are we debating here? You know that it's not either. Come on. If it was volume, I would have the biggest chest in the entire world. Why is that, Chad? Well, because I got this stupid idea in my head a long, long time ago. I was 18, and I said, I think I want to become a Navy SEAL. So I started doing all these push-ups. And I was doing, no joke, because I take everything to the extreme. You need to run? I'm going to run at least 100 miles a week, because that's what I did. I'm not telling you to do that. Don't do that. I'm trying to tell people all the time that I learned a lesson from these things, that you don't need to do nearly as much as I did. I could have been much faster, spending a lot less time running long, slow distances. Point being, though, I take things to the extreme. So at 18, I had no idea what I was doing. It's not like I had any experience in coaching. I wasn't an S&C coach at that time. And so I just did as many push-ups as I could, and eventually got to a point where I was doing over 1,000 push-ups a day. I weighed 110 pounds. I still weighed 110 pounds. My chest was really big, and my shoulders weren't really big, and my triceps weren't really huge either. 1,000 push-ups a day. More than that. It just kept going up. I just kept adding volume. And I didn't get any bigger. And you know what else? I didn't get any stronger either. It's not like my bench press went way up because I do so many goddamn push-ups. Well, that sucks. So I guess it isn't volume, is it? And I mean, that's just like part of it, right? I was doing sit-ups and air squats and lunges for ever and ever and ever. I mean, I would spend literally hours of the day doing push-ups, pull-ups. I did hundreds of pull-ups. It's not like I had huge biceps. I still weighed 110 pounds, still looked like this skinny little endurance dude. So, volume is out, right? Obviously that didn't work. And I can tell you from the other extreme of things, when I did squat every day, and I actually did the actual squat every day program where you work up to a max every day, my legs didn't get any bigger. In fact, actually, I just kind of went backwards. I got a little stronger for a couple weeks, and then I just started going backwards. And it was like each day I came in, I was a little weaker and a little weaker and a little weaker and a little weaker. And the longer I did this, the more I slid backwards. So maxing out every day didn't work real well. I didn't get stronger, I didn't get bigger, so, there goes intensity. Wait a minute. So it's not volume. The volume doesn't work. Yeah, it does. Not intensity. Intensity didn't work either. So what's the actual answer? Well, the answer lies between the two. So, as I just pointed out, let's say you just did maximum every time you came in. All you do is maximum. All I do is singles. I just work up to a maximum every day. Well, if you do that, the intensity is high, but your volume is so low that it isn't enough to stimulate an adaptation. Conversely, I'm going to come in every day and just do thousands of push-ups. The volume's high, but the intensity isn't high enough to stimulate an adaptation. So, in the big discussion here of volume or intensity, what your answer really is that it's both, and you have to find a balance between the two where you're doing something that's intense enough, but not so intense that you can't accumulate volume. Similarly, you need to accumulate enough volume, but it needs to be at a sufficient intensity. So let's just turn to Mike Stone. This does not apply to beginners, obviously, or even maybe intermediates might have a little gray area here, but Mike Stone made the observation that by the time that you're an advanced lifter, you pretty much have to train with about 85% of your 1-rep max in order for you to create sufficient stress on the muscle. And this makes sense because, as Fred Hatfield told us, it's not about time under tension, it's time under maximal tension. That's true, because if it was just about time under tension, what I would do is I would just do a wall sit. I would just hold it for increasingly longer amounts of time, and eventually I would have bigger legs than Tom Platz, because that's more time under tension. I'm just doing a wall sit, but now I do a wall sit for a whole fucking hour. Wow. When was the last time you did a workout where you had a full hour of time under tension on your quads? But I'm sure that you can appreciate this. If you did an hour-long wall sit, which might even be a world record for all I know, better check the Guinness Book of World Records for wall sits, you're not going to suddenly grow huge quads. It's not intense enough. There's not enough load. So you need this, as Fred Hatfield pointed out, it's time under maximal tension, right? And I think that that's a great point. If you took 85% and squatted that for a set of 5, right, the relative intensity of that is like 100%. That's really fucking hard. So that's probably a good balance there. You're getting 5 reps in, and it's at 85% of your 1 rep max. That's a good load. This is probably more effective than, say, if you did 5 reps at 50% or 1 rep at 100%, right? So you need to stop and consider these things. And I'm trying to remember who it was. It wasn't Meg Stone. It might have been Ebony Rio, who pointed out that you need to use at least 75% of your 1 rep max to stimulate the tendon. And I think that that's important here because you want the tendon to get stronger along with the muscle. No one wants to have a strong muscle and a weak tendon. That's how tendon ruptures occur. And no one wants a strong tendon with a weak muscle because that's how your muscle strains occur. So you kind of want to make sure that you're strengthening both. So I would say conservatively, intelligently, rationally, you probably want to find a load somewhere between 75% and 85% and then accumulate as much volume as you can at that load. So, we could do a lot more volume at 50%, yeah, but that isn't really ideal. You could go a lot heavier and do 90%, but you're not going to be able to accumulate enough volume. So the ideal balance of these things is probably doing a lot of volume somewhere between 75 to 85%. So that means, basically somewhere between 5 to 10 reps, a 10 rep max might be 75% of your 1 rep max. And a 5 rep max might be around 85% of your 1 rep max. So you're basically looking at something between 5 and 10 reps using a load that's somewhere between 75 and 85%. And that's probably where the balance is. It's not either or. This isn't volume or intensity. This is more like try to do as much volume as you can and still recover at an intensity that is sufficient to stimulate muscle adaptation. So there you guys go. That's your answer. This isn't just do endless volume. If you're just doing endless reps at 30% of your 1 rep max, maybe you're getting a pump, and I bet that works really good if you're on drugs. Because if you're a bodybuilder and you're on drugs, you have weak tendons, but you can pump all this blood into the muscle, which pumps more drugs into the muscle and creates all this localized growth because of phosphatidic acid, IGF-1, mTOR-C1, all these important things like that. Yes, you could pump a muscle up with drugs, or for the rest of us, you're going to have to lift something kind of heavy. And kind of heavy is a relative term, but I'm going to mean it to mean something between 75 and 85%. And then over time, you want to try to get more volume in at that load. And then eventually, you're probably going to have to test your 1 rep max again and find out that your 1 rep max went up. And then you're going to have to adjust and go heavier again. So it never gets easier. You just keep increasing the load. And there you guys have it. That's pretty much the way I look at these things. It's not volume or intensity. It's finding a balance of volume that you can recover from using an intensity that is sufficient to stimulate the muscle.